might be daydreaming about in terms of lineup combinations and personnel in Arizona this year?
Well, Matty, I feel like you said it a lot throughout the first month, 6 weeks of the offseason. Like, the Cubs are going to have to spend money somewhere, and they did end up spending a good amount of money. You look at some of their free agent signings this offseason, they spent more than $250 million on the free agent market. The only teams that spent more than them so far, the Mets and the Yankees, obviously right around the century mark in terms of wins last year, and the Phillies and Padres, who are the NLCS. So being 20 games back in the division roughly in each of the last 2 years did not stop the Cubs from spending on these guys you see on this board here. And one we'll talk about, the obvious dreamer on this board, Cody Bellinger, a former MVP who's fallen on hard times. You see the numbers here. Over the last 3 years, less home runs combined than he had in his MVP season. But they get him on a one-year deal, see if he can reestablish his value, plays in a park that should be pretty friendly to him as a hitter. He can help their defense up the middle. Their center fielders were not good last year defensively. And you think about that up-the-middle defense, the other big addition, Swanson, these were the outs above average leaders last year among shortstop. They're both Cubs. Horner's going to move over to second base. Swanson's going to play shortstop, obviously, so they could have a great up-the-middle combination defensively on the infield, and with Bellinger roaming around out in center field, they could be pretty good there as well. Now, how about the ultimate daydream, guys? Matt Mervis. Let's introduce you to him here. A 39th-round pick out of high school. He didn't end up signing. He went on to Duke. He was in that 2020 draft class after 4 years of college, and you remember it was only 5 rounds, so there was all kinds of guys that were free agents, undrafted. Gets $20,000 to sign with the Cubs. Struggles in his first season in the minors, a 204 average you see on the bottom there, but last year led all minor league players with 78 extra base hits. And here are his totals combined across 3 levels of the minor leagues and the Arizona Fall League. 42 homers in 154 games. Just huge numbers for Matt Mervis. He's probably going to start in somewhat of a platoon role, assuming that he's on the opening day roster. But if he can establish himself, maybe this is a guy where you catch lightning in a bottle and all of a sudden you've got a guy that can be part of the mix going forward. Also, a side note, I don't want to steal JP's thunder, but he's going to be on Team Israel in the WBC, so we'll get an early look at him there as well. What do you guys have to say about the Cubs heading into this year?
Well, I got a lot of thoughts. You want to start, Mikey? Because I got a couple things that are questions for me.
I think they're sneaky. I think they could be sneaky good. Their offense, I'm more drinking the Kool-Aid on their offense being good than bad. I mean, defensively up the middle, like he said, they're going to be money. I mean, it's Gold Glove caliber at second, short, and in center field.
And a catcher, by the way, with Barnhart.
2 good catchers.
Absolutely.
Gomes is a backup. You could do worse than that for sure.
Yeah, I like, you have young guys like Morel where he can move around, Ian Happ. Like, there's something there. I'm not sure the pitching's there, but I think, like you mentioned in the break, Jameson Taillon's a nice little sneaky sign.
Yeah.
That division's not impossible. It's not one of the powerhouses, in my opinion. So I think they're actually trending up. What I like about the Cubs, in the end, they got money. Mm-hmm. Like, if they surpass some expectations going into next year, I mean, they can make a splash and sign 2-3 guys, and now they're a totally different-looking team. So it's cool. I mean, and Mervis, what position does he play?
First base.
I mean, you got Hosmer on a major league minimum. Maybe he comes, you learn from him. Maybe he finds something. And this Mervis kid, hey, some guys figure it out. It takes you 4 years in college, and not everyone's Mike Trout and Manny Machado.
I would agree with you that the offense is markedly better, for sure. I've always been a huge Ian Happ fan. I mean, a guy that can hit for power both sides of the plate, he runs. I love that guy as a player, like his heartbeat too. But the key for the Cubs for me is going to be the young guys at the back of the rotation. If Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson take that next step, and Dan Plesac is one that loves Keegan Thompson, talks about him a lot, and I would defer to Dan on all things pitching, especially as it relates to the Cubs, because he watches them daily. You know what you're getting with Stroman, Taillon, Hendricks, Smiley to another degree. But if Keegan Thompson and Justin Steele can establish themselves, you're onto something there. I don't know that anybody has a lockdown bullpen. We're not going to say that the Cubs bullpen is one thing or another, because that's going to sort itself out in camp. But I'm really going to be curious to see where the odds makers and the Pacoda people have their win total projection this year. They won 74 games last year. They haven't been good each of the last couple years. This on paper is, for me, at least an 80-win team. I give them 6 more wins than last year's bunch, and maybe even more than that. That's going to be a win total that I'm going to be buying and interested in, Keith.
I like what you said about the pitching, too, Matty, as a barometer going forward, because you think back to their glory years here just not that long ago at all. They had all those homegrown position players, but developing starting pitching from their internal options was an Achilles heel. So if they can kind of turn the corner and get back on the right track there, they're heading in the right direction.
It'll be a fun game to play, to watch their win total. You know who else has a game? They're on the right trajectory.
Keep doing your thing, man. You're on the right trajectory,
For
man.
sure. If Lauren would get off the phone, we could get her on the show.
My priest is calling me.
All right. Well, she's got a game lined up for us a little bit later on. We've also got a guest lined up next. Kevin Youkilis is going to join us. Mike's ex-teammate in Boston, who's biting off a bigger number of games on Nesson this year. I don't know what's going to happen to the beer business.
Yeah, you know, the guys in his band, we all met around the Peter Gammons, Theo Epstein, Hot Stove Cool Musics is why we started hanging out, because of that charity. And so we wanted to come back and rehearse for this record for a couple of shows coming up during spring training, and we had kind of like a surprise gig last night, yeah.
Wow. You know how jealous I am? All athletes want to be like musicians, and musicians want to be athletes. So now you're doing them both, so you're living the dream. Which one gets your juices flowing more, pitching in front of a large crowd or playing in front of a large crowd?
Honestly, you know, the music's a little scarier. As you know, Mike, on the field, you know, we're comfortable in our surroundings, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter if there's 20,000 there or 40,000. You're kind of like concentrating on the task at hand. But musically, you know, people have paid a ticket to come watch you play, and they don't expect you to give up 9 runs in the second inning on the stage, right? Like, if you bomb music completely, it's not cool. So a lot of times I'm more nervous to deliver the goods musically than I ever was to try to get outs on the mound.
Now, I'm curious about, we're just taking a look at your Red Sox, Rip, and you and Mike were visiting during a commercial. You were teammates for, what, all of a month in spring training before you were traded away from Boston to Cincinnati?
Yeah, that was a funny spring, you know. I mean, it was a great spring we had together, you know, for about 4.5 weeks, and then I got the surprise call from Theo Epstein that said they were shipping me off to Cincinnati. So, you know, it was a bummer that I didn't get to play with Mike that year.
I want to know about the music stuff here before we get into some baseball and this new recording, the new album that will be released in about a month. The guys that you tour with, are those the guys that play on the album, or do you have the different people that you collaborate with in that regard?
No, the guys that I wrote this record with are the guys playing with me, the guys that played the show last night. It's Jamie Aronson, who plays guitar for Miley Cyrus. This is a group of guys I met, like I said, at Theo Epstein's Hot Stove Cool Music. We all met in 2004. The name of the band is Bronson Arroyo and the 04, kind of an homage to its 4 guys in the band behind me playing, but also we all met around that special time here in New England. They're all New England guys. And, you know, it's just a joy to get out and play these first shows with these guys, because we really haven't done it as a band after making this recording.
Who is the best baseball player musician that you've ever encountered? I know that Jake Peavy has made himself into a really good guitar player, and he can sing. I remember Mike Bilecki played the drums. Like, there have been guys here and there, but who for you is the most skilled? Bernie Williams, of course. Who for you is the best?